This is me. This is my beloved wife, Sylvia. This is Sylvia's idea of sailing. This is my dream of sailing and my hope of circumnavigating the globe as a retirement project in 2029. This is Sylvia's reaction to that idea. I am on a 6-year quest to convince Sylvia that a circumnavigation is a wonderful adventure, but the clock is ticking, so join me as I search for the perfect yacht that Sylvia will love, and get all your ladies to subscribe and cheer Sylvia on in the comments. Welcome back to Naval Gazing at Camp David. This week's guest yacht is one of the most beautiful and fast craft in its category, the Dragonfly 40 retractable trimaran. Today, we are going to, 1, review its specifications, pricing, and layout against 3 similar new vessels. 2, do a full tour asking, what would Sylvia say? 3, naval gaze and an innovation and/or adjustment that might make life aboard easier. 4, have a look at the used market for 3 to 5-year-old pre-owned comparables. And 5, give it a Dave score and compare the result to all our previously reviewed yachts. All this fun will be sandwiched between a wine pairing, in this case a spirits pairing, from the same region as the guest yacht, and a look at a favorite sample of art from the same region. Yachts, waves, ideas, and booze and art. What a civilized way to spend 30 minutes, so let's get going. Starting high above Vancouver, we fly east across North America and across the Atlantic to France's western shores and the home of last time's yacht at the Lagoon Yards. From here we head north into Scandinavia and the Corning Boat Yards, home of the Dragonfly 40. We head still further north to the home of our pairing this week, Aalborg Tafel Akkevat, a Danish schnapps. Denmark's best-selling aquavit, I'm probably screwing that up, Aalborg Tafel Akkevat, was launched in 1846 by Isidor Henius, the man who introduced the rectification technique to Denmark. This distillation technique enables the production of a very pure and tasty high-proof spirit, 45%. Nicknamed Red Aalborg, Tafel Akkevat is the closest you'll come to Danish national schnapps history. It has a fiery taste with strong caraway notes and a distant echo of dill, orange, and a drop of sweetness to balance the pleasant and appetizing taste. Danish writer Jorgen Vibe wrote poetry in early 20th century. Akkevat appears in his poems somewhat frequently, attesting to its place in Danish culture. But once he noted a specific Akkevat by brand and name. Tafel Akkevat, or table Akkevat, is either entirely unaged or aged in spent casks that impart nearly no character. Aalborg's clear table Akkevat has been produced since 1846, widely drank since then. Vintage bottles do occasionally appear on the market. So set out a plate of pickled fish and crackers and pour a glass of Scandinavia's signature spirit. Ooh, that's a completely different, but I could get used to it. Let's go have a look at that boat. Looking at this vessel, it just stops you in your tracks. It is not only visually beautiful, but when you realize that those hulls fold in, it's an engineering marvel. You just saw a quick snapshot of the speed this thing was doing across the water. It looks fast, it looks elegant, I don't know who did the design. Well, I do know who did the design, and he is a genius. He's an artist. I mean, just look at how refined and elegant and beautiful this thing. It really is art on water. Not to mention, it goes like a scalded cat. I mean, you are really talking about a wonder of engineering. And now they've produced this in full carbon. I can only imagine what that must be like. But they do say that it handles extremely well, despite the power. Again, the look of these hulls when they're tucked in, you sort of have the best of both worlds. You have the ability to moor this where a monohull would go. You have the stability of a catamaran, but some of the feel of a monohull in a trimaran. If I could get something that was bigger than this, I'd do it. Now, new comparables. This week, we're looking at the Neil 43, the Seacat 37, the Rapido 40, and the Dragonfly 40. And I've selected these because of either hull configuration, that being a trimaran, or in the case of the Seacat, remarkable performance. You can see here, as far as square footage on the sail area, obviously the Neil 43 is the highest at 101, followed then by the Rapido 40, which is a full carbon boat. You want to talk about going like a scalded cat. And the Dragonfly 40 at 90, and then the Seacat at 78. As we move on to the cabin top, you can see here the disadvantage to a degree of a trimaran, a traditional trimaran in the Rapido and the Dragonfly. You have that extremely narrow center hull, which really does not afford the same level of space that you would have, say, on a 40-foot monohull. The Seacat really shows its strength here, as does the Neil configuration, which stretches right across all three hulls. As we move into the saloon, this is where the Neil 43 just leaps off the page, although still a little deceptive in that your main owner's cabin is on the main floor. Having said that, even without that, it's a staggering amount of space. The Seacat 37, obviously very limited, but it is a 37-foot boat and very nicely laid out as such. The Rapido 40 really does a good job for a narrow main hull in this category. There's a lot of space in that, and you'll see it from the photos if you look. The Dragonfly 40, again, very nicely done. It's a little more, feels a little more broken up than, say, the Rapido or a traditional monohull, but the fit and the finish that they've done in there is absolutely second to none. So let's now move into the actual quarters on this. Nothing changes in here except for the Seacat. Seacat, you've got an owner's hull on the starboard side. The entire hull dedicated, so it's fairly roomy. The Neil 43 has a tremendous main floor cabin there, which allows you just to pop your head up and look around. Rapido, you've got your owner's suite either fore or aft, and the Dragonfly, you've got your owner's suite in the bow there. As we head to the numbers, stuff gets pretty interesting real fast here. So base price, the Seacat is a remarkable value at 296,000 euro, followed by the Neil 43. And when I say remarkable value, it's such a well-built vessel. Wiley Sharp is the North American representative for it. It's a full vinylester hull. It's made in Italy. The cabinetry is beautiful. Really good value. The Neil 43 at 330,000, very close there, and a lot of living space. Next is going to be the Dragonfly at 509, so we take quite a jump up, about 150, and then another jump up to 595 on the Rapido 40. So quite a spread there. And bear in mind, when we go to the pre-owned comparables, we're going to tack 50% onto this new price to get a sail away approximation. As we then look at the further down into the numbers here, you can see the draft on these is extremely shallow, with the Dragonfly at 0.7 being the shallowest, 0.7 meters. the displacement, these are some pretty remarkable numbers. So the Neil 43 is at 9 ton, and she's the heavyweight. So the Seacat 37, 5 ton. That's really quite something. The Dragonfly, 5.6 ton. And the Rapido, 5.7 ton. So you can see what I mean by the Seacat there, what you're getting for your buck. Now, upwind sail area, well, we already briefly discussed that. Looking at the engines, you've got either the 50 horse, a single 50 horse on the Neil. On the Dragonfly, you've got a single 40, Rapido single 30, and then the Seacat is twin 20s. As far as liquid capacity, I couldn't find anything on the Rapido anywhere. But in the rest of them, the Neil leads with 364 liters of fuel and 600 liters of water. Next is going to be the Seacat at 200 liters of fuel, 300 liters of water. And then there's the Rapido at 150 liters of fuel and 220 of water. Okay, moving to the more technical side of things. If you're looking at these, obviously the Neil is a true production boat, so you've got the polyester and some vinylester to resist osmosis. And then you've got the Seacat, which is foam and vinylester all the way, epoxy vinylester resins all the way through. That's a great quality boat. The Dragonfly is vinylester resin infusion on foam, very nicely done with fiberglass. And of course the Rapido is epoxy infused carbon foam. So, I mean, it's sort of the Lamborghini of the bunch. If you're looking at sail area over displacement here, you've got the Rapido leading the pack at 30.75. It's just an unbelievable number. But the Dragonfly is at 28.33, followed by the Seacat. I'm sorry, the Rapido is followed by the Seacat, not the Dragonfly. The Seacat is 29.03. Followed by the Dragonfly at 28.33. That was the thing that surprised me and really draws me to that Seacat. And then the Neil at 23.93. So that's power. Looking at heaviness. This is the displacement over length, and this is like golf where the low number wins. Rapido wins at 93.1, followed again by the Seacat at 102.03. Then you've got the Dragonfly at 107 and the Neil at 149.49. Still not a bad number, but that Seacat is a big surprise. And if you look at their numbers right across, you'll often see that. The 48, I'd have to go back and look at it, but I've looked at the 56, although that's just on paper, and they've got impressive numbers. Okay, what would Sylvia say? Well, Sylvia would take one look at this thing and its sexiness would definitely capture her imagination. She couldn't live on it, but she would love it. This is like a piece of jewelry on the water. It's so beautiful. And you can imagine if you had your seat cushions in here. Look at the sense of connection with the water you have at these helms. You're right at the aft area. By the way, this has a roller furling boom. I mean, they really have spared no expense on this machine. Your line so elegantly taken care of. The control station is complete and very comfortable and usable. Complete sense of connection back at these aft helm seats where you're sitting to a side, so you're leaning right over. Okay, we're going to get into some navel gazing here. And we're going to talk about some new technologies. So although I salute the leadership of Windelo in the green boat building, the first thing I thought about when I heard of their innovative fiber was all that unrecyclable vinylester resin that is soaked in it. Although beneficial, the effort seemed to be a little futile considering this. Then my first subscriber and constant sort of inspiration and information, Clive, thanks Clive, pointed me in the direction of the answer. A new recyclable liquid thermoplastic resin called Elium, developed by Arkema. Although extremely new, Arkema's Elium has already caught the eye of the Beneteau Group, the largest sailboat manufacturer in the world, and they've already started using it for 2 production boats, the Beneteau First 44E and the Oceanis 30.1E. To say that this is a strong endorsement is an understatement. Arkema's Elium has an average material cost similar to a vinylester resin. It has a lifespan durability the same as vinylester and epoxy. It has a weight similar to vinylester and epoxy, has no special manufacturing requirements such as temperature or humidity. It has resistance to osmosis similar to vinylester and epoxy, but it can be separated from end-of-life structures using several different techniques and used again, having retained the same properties as virgin resin. What's more, given the adoption of this technology by major builders, volume production will go up and cost is most likely going to come down even further over the next 5 years. A liquid-like epoxy resin, Elium resin, allowed the same molds as for the thermoset composites to be used, but it requires less energy consumption because the molds don't need to be heated and manufacturing is carried out at an ambient temperature. A further advantage is that part elements were assembled simply by gluing and no added heat source, in contrast to thermoset gluing. It's even possible to assemble certain elements simply by thermo-welding, allowing for considerable savings in terms of time and manufacturing costs. Speaking directly to the use of Arkema's Elium for turbine blade development, Arkema said, since then, we've made 13-meter prototype blades which have demonstrated a 20% savings in manufacturing time compared to epoxy blades. The company further stated that their many trials have proved conclusive. Arkema 3, one of several demonstration racing sailboats, has demonstrated equivalent mechanical performance to epoxy models, the top end of thermoset resins. Elium resin even offers a slight advantage. It is slightly more resilient to the impact of waves, chunks of wood, etc., and returns to its original shape without losing its mechanical qualities in terms of energy recovery. Beside the already mentioned advantages, Elium does not contain any styrene, which clearly improves safety in the workplace. To contact Arkema and learn more about their Elium resin, I've included the contact information for their business development manager below. Okay, a little more navel gazing now that we're on this trend of green. So now the resin issue is resolved in spectacular fashion. What about fiber? E-glass is cheap and effective, but leave a gigantic carbon footprint in its manufacturing wake. Carbon fiber is just too expensive to be practical for all but the exotic builds. So what's left? Flax fiber adds weight, and that may be okay on a monohull. It won't fill our needs for multi-hulls. The ideal combination with Arkema's recyclable liquid thermoplastic resin Elium is the same basalt fiber that Windelo has pioneered on their new 50 and 54-foot catamarans. Basalt fiber can be fully recycled. Basalt rock is one of the main constituents of the ocean's crust and is an abundant resource. No additives are needed to transform it, which reduces carbon emissions by 10. The fiberization process for basalt is more environmentally safe than that of fiberglass. Basalt and e-glass fibers now have similar production costs, putting basalt and glass FRP production on similar pricing. Basalt epoxy samples strength tested 13.7% higher than that of e-glass samples and exhibited 17.5% greater stiffness although the Basalt sample was 3.6% heavier than the E-glass sample. So all I mean there is, if we're using Elium instead of epoxy, you're going to, the resin doesn't make a real difference. You're going to see the same relative improvements. So, 13%, 17%, 3% weight penalty, back off the amount that you're using. Maybe you're nailing down a 10% to 12% benefit in the overall strength and stiffness of the boat, and it is purely recyclable. So the net result is higher strength and stiffness for the same weight. Additionally, basalt fibers are naturally resistant to ultraviolet and high energy electromagnetic radiation and maintain their properties in cold temperatures and provide better acid resistance. Reportedly, basalt also is superior in the realm of worker safety and air quality as well. It's a match made in heaven, much like my beloved Nye. Okay, back on board. We're looking around the cockpit. You've got beautiful line bins there, some nice storage, indirect lighting. It's a very elegant space, really beautifully designed. Every element of it has not only an engineering and functional benefit, but an artistic flair to it. It's really, really nice. Now, here is what you're going to love. Moving down into the saloon, now this is where it gets gorgeous. Look at the wood grain that they're using here. The matched grains, the brushed aluminum corner pieces, the inset leather look. This is so elegant. Every part of this, look at the aluminum edging there. The size of the windows, even in this aft area here. It looks elegant. It really, really looks elegant. They've done an amazing job. Nothing is overstated. It's all gives a sense and an aura of absolute Danish quality. Beautiful head. It is a wet head, but again, you've got limited space in the narrow hull of this length. Beautiful open windows. They don't look like they're that big on the outside, but once you get inside, it feels so light and airy, and you've got these lovely cabin top hatches. They've got a very neat situation here with a little cocktail table between two built-in seats and a little footstool that pops down and allows you to rest your feet. You've got your compression post there and a central table with a side settee, all very comfortable. You've got the central walkway is lowered so that you got enough headroom, and then you move into your forward VIP berth. And again, everything it just feels so finished. It's small, but feels so elegant in the way it's executed. Look at these pocket doors too. I mean, I really can't say enough about the sense of quality and finish. Nothing feels, tacked together. Nothing feels cheap or RV-ish. This feels extremely high Danish quality. It really feels outstanding. Now, look at as you're looking down the side of this boat, just look at it. I mean, honestly, those amas are so beautiful. It's hard to believe they fold in. And you just can't say enough about the aesthetic appeal. Again, the designer is an artist, an absolute artist. Look at these reverse bows on the amas and just how aggressive they appear. I mean, you'd hop on your dinghy and drive away from that and just pinch yourself as you look back. Again, if it was me alone, I'd probably go for it. Okay, I've got something a little different for you here on Naval Gazing. It's time for das Frankenboat. So I am talking about how much I love this boat, and so I couldn't help myself. I am no naval architect, I'm no engineer, I'm none of that. I just have a vivid imagination. So I took bits and pieces of other boats and put them together after measuring the hull beam and what it would have to be to house what I would consider a reasonable cabin space, which would equate to an Oyster 495. And I stretched the thing out until it achieved that. Of course, you're increasing head space, all those lovely things. And I ended up with the Frankenboat Dragonfly 80 by Dave Orton. So here she is in all her glory, complete with a rigid bimini with built-in solar. You can see the AMA in the foreground. Here she is from the top down. You'll see on the port AMAs, I've demonstrated a 12-panel solar array that would actually fold up together and then down into the AMA, or reversing. The hatches would open, it would come straight up and then split apart like a flower. That would give you your solar, plus the solar that you can see there on the fixed bimini. There's your idea of a fixed bimini. And then moving underneath the bimini, you can see you have more traditional helming positions a little further up with a large aft area to spread out in and a very comfortable cockpit. So it would look something like this, which is straight from an Oyster. There you are, those lovely helm seats in the back there. Then you'd head down in, and yes, I have taken the interior of an Oyster 495 or 565, I forget which one, sort of stretched it out, squeezed it around, stuffed it in, and left enough space in the aft for a wonderful drop-down swim platform and a dinghy garage. I believe that's a Williams 285 dimensionally in there with tons of space around it. Going inside, obviously I would like it to look like this, but it's not going to be solid wood. It's going to be ultralight foam cord veneers. But you would have this kind of space with the raised deck saloon. There we go. And then you would have a full beam aft master with those iconic vertical seascape windows, both in the saloon and the aft bedroom. So there you are, Das Frankenboat by Dave Orton, 80-foot, foldable, trimaran, screaming speed, incredible elegance. And if there's a naval architect out there who actually knows how to do 3D design and would like to contact me and put this and a few other items together, give me a call. Okay, moving on to pre-owned comparables. This is tough because what the heck compares to this? Well, in the pre-owned world, I looked at a Corsair 37, a 2020, so 2-year-old boat. The Sail Away Dragonfly 40 is about $763 US. This for a three-year-old boat, 2-year-old boat is coming in at $310. But there's no comparison in the look of these. You know, I know it's almost $500,000 more, but it's like comparing a Ferrari to, well, you know what I'm saying. Now, the Neil 43, we're looking at a 2021, 1 or 2 year old boat, 450,000 versus 763. That would be tough. The Neil, I know I've probably got people just having epileptic seizures out there when I say that would be tough. I just mean that space-wise, you've got so much space on the 43. It does pretty good in performance, but you're obviously not buying a Dragonfly 40 for space, and the performance just kicks it. So I'd go with the Dragonfly. Last but not least, the Seawind 1000 XL2, 36-foot, 2016, so 5-6-year-old boat. 255,000. I mean, that's a pretty good cat. And you know, it's a small cat, but again, it's so hard to compare. You know, you're buying the Dragonfly for performance and art and passion, and you're not going to get that out of a 2016 Seawind. Okay, we are heading to monohull heresy and adding 20% to the length to look at equivalent monohulls. The first is a 2017 Catalina 355. Now the interiors of the Catalinas rival that of the Dragonfly. They are absolutely gorgeous interiors. The woodwork is spectacular. We're looking at a 5-year-old boat here for $250,000 versus $763,000. All things considered, I'd have to look at this Catalina if it's in good shape. Next is Dufour 360. I mean, you do have a fair amount of space in this. This is only a 1-year-old boat. You're looking at $260,000 versus $763,000. Again, the delta is so huge. Unless I really had the money, I'd have to go with that. So again, not really relevant comparisons, but there you go. Speaking of not relevant, let's move into the Dave score. So where does this Dragonfly land? Well, it lands surprisingly high because I just frickin' love it. Again, the Dave score is not meant for boats like the Dragonfly or boats like a Lagoon 65 or boats like C57. Size, too big, it doesn't apply. Too small, it doesn't apply. Too high performance, it doesn't apply. But we have it here anyways. And our little friend here did remarkably well at a total score of 74. Interior elegance, 8. Exterior elegance, 8. Maybe a 9. Interior comfort, 6. It's just too small for my application. Exterior comfort, 6. Again, not a lot of space. Quality, 9. Performance, 9. Lazy Sailor, 7, if not higher. The Condo, 5 or 4. Geek, 9, because those folding arms, oh my gosh, they're so cool. And value for money, I'd give it a solid 7. So it ended up at 74. And I really don't compare when I'm doing these scores. They just end up where they end. And there you have it. Art of the region. This week, we're looking at Lauritis tuxan, gazing out at the sea. Lauritis Regner Tuxen was brought up in Copenhagen. As the son of a naval officer, he originally wanted to be a marine artist. When training at the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts, he and Peter Sven Kreuler were considered to be the most talented students. Tuxen first visited Skagen in 1870, and he returned several times during the 1870s. More than 20 years would pass before he returned in 1901. During that time, Tuxen trained as a painter in Paris together with Peter Severin Kreuler, and he was one of the co-founders of the Kunstnernes Frey Studik, guys, I can't do it, which was established as an alternative to the Academy. Okay, I've stumbled through that, brutally destroying the language. I apologize to all my Danish viewers, but I hope you enjoyed it. I love this painting. I think it goes beautifully with the quality of the vessel we've seen, and I do salute the Dragonfly team. You guys are artists in every sense of the word. Have a great week, and we'll see you here next week. Thanks and cheers.